Picture this. You're standing in ancient Africa 6 million years ago, and our ancestors are all around you, but they can't speak a single word, can't make a single tool, and yet they're surviving in one of the most dangerous environments on Earth, using nothing but their wits, their bodies, and primitive social bonds. This was humanity at its most raw and vulnerable state. Yet these creatures possessed something special that would eventually lead to language, technology, and civilization itself. If you're fascinated by the origins of what makes us human, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're about to explore the remarkable world before tools and language existed. Welcome back. Today we're venturing into one of the most mysterious and crucial periods in human evolution, 6 million years ago during the latest Miocene epoch. This represents the very edge of our evolutionary story, when our ancestors had just separated from the chimpanzee lineage, but hadn't yet developed any of the traits we consider uniquely human. In this video, we'll explore how these pre-languaged ancestors survived using only their natural abilities. We'll examine what their daily lives looked like, how they communicated without words, and what archaeological evidence tells us about their behavior. Most importantly, we'll discover what seeds of humanity were already present in these seemingly primitive creatures. What makes this period absolutely crucial is that we're witnessing the birth moment of our lineage. These ancestors possessed the genetic and behavioral foundation that would eventually give rise to everything from the first stone tools to Shakespeare's sonnets. Yet they lived lives that were almost indistinguishable from other apes. Let me set the scene of Earth 6 million years ago during the latest Miocene period. The planet was experiencing significant climate change, transitioning from the warm, stable conditions of the Middle Miocene to cooler, more variable weather patterns. Global temperatures were still 2 degrees warmer than today, but cooling trends were accelerating. Africa was undergoing dramatic transformation. The extensive forests that had covered much of the continent were beginning to fragment and shrink. While dense woodlands still existed, they were increasingly interrupted by patches of more open terrain. This created the mosaic landscapes that many researchers believe were crucial for early human evolution. The most important fossil evidence from this period comes from several groundbreaking discoveries. Sahelanthropus chadensis, discovered by Michel Brunet's team in 2001 at Taurus Manala in Chad, dates to between 6 and 7 million years ago. This remarkable skull shows a fascinating mix of ape and early human characteristics. Orrorin buginensis, found by Martin Pickford and Brigitte Sennett at Tugen Hills in Kenya in 2000, provides additional evidence of our earliest ancestors, dating to about 6 million years ago. These fossils suggest that bipedalism may have begun earlier than previously thought, though the creatures were still primarily adapted for life in trees. Ardipithecus cadaver, discovered by Tim White's team in Ethiopia, represents another crucial piece of the puzzle. These 5.8 to 5.2 million year old fossils bridge the gap between the earliest possible human ancestors and the later, better known Ardipithecus ramidus. The geological record shows that the East African rift was becoming increasingly active during this period, creating the diverse topography that would later become central to human evolution. Volcanic activity was reshaping the landscape, creating new lake systems and altering drainage patterns. Paleo-environmental reconstructions based on fossil pollen, ancient soils, and marine sediment cores reveal a world in transition. The stable, forest-dominated ecosystems of earlier periods were giving way to more dynamic, variable environments that required greater adaptability from their inhabitants. The fossil record from this time shows a remarkable diversity of African fauna. Early elephants, primitive giraffes, ancient pigs, and numerous predators shared the landscape with our ancestors. Competition for resources was intense, and survival required every advantage these early hominins could muster. Here's where our story becomes both fascinating and deeply mysterious. How did our 6 million-year-old ancestors survive without any of the tools or communication systems that we consider essential for human survival? The first major puzzle is communication. Modern great apes have sophisticated gestural and vocal communication systems, but nothing approaching human language. Our 6 million-year-old ancestors were likely similar, relying on a combination of calls, gestures, facial expressions, and body language to coordinate group activities. Dr. Michael Tomasello's research at the Max Planck Institute shows that great apes can understand pointing and simple, intentional gestures, suggesting that our ancestors may have had more sophisticated nonverbal communication than previously thought. But how did they coordinate complex activities like group foraging or predator avoidance without language? Recent studies of bonobo communication by Dr. Sue Savage-Rumbaugh have revealed that these apes can understand hundreds of symbols and respond to complex instructions. If our ancestors had similar capabilities, they may have been far more communicatively sophisticated than the archaeological record suggests. The second mystery is problem-solving without tools. While stone tools don't appear until around 2.6 million years ago, our 6 million-year-old ancestors were certainly using their intelligence to solve survival problems. But how and what evidence exists for this cognitive sophistication? Modern chimpanzees and bonobos show remarkable problem-solving abilities in the wild. They use medicinal plants when sick, modify their behavior based on seasonal changes, and show cultural transmission of knowledge across generations. Jane Goodall's pioneering research revealed that wild chimpanzees use grass stems to fish for termites, essentially making and using tools. Archaeological evidence from this early period is almost non-existent, because organic materials rarely preserve over such long time spans. However, recent advances in microscopic analysis of fossil teeth and bones are revealing new insights into ancient diets and behaviors. The third puzzle is social organization. How did groups coordinate activities, resolve conflicts, and make collective decisions without language? Modern ape societies provide clues, but our ancestors were living in environments and facing challenges that no modern ape encounters. Dr. Richard Wrangham's research on chimpanzee societies shows complex hierarchies, alliance formations, and even primitive warfare. If our ancestors had similar social systems, they would have needed sophisticated ways to navigate interpersonal relationships and group dynamics. The predator avoidance challenge was enormous. Africa 6 million years ago was populated by massive carnivores specifically adapted to hunt primates. How did our relatively small, vulnerable ancestors survive encounters with early saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, and other apex predators? Modern primate studies show that successful predator avoidance requires group coordination, environmental awareness, and split-second decision-making. Our ancestors would have needed all of these capabilities to survive, yet they had to develop them without the benefit of accumulated cultural knowledge. Now let's examine the scientific theories that attempt to explain how our pre-tool, pre-language ancestors managed to survive and thrive during this critical period. The gestural origins theory. championed by researchers like Michael Corballis, suggests that human language evolved from gestural communication systems. Our 6 million-year-old ancestors may have had rich gestural vocabularies that allowed complex communication without spoken words. Supporting evidence comes from studies showing that great apes naturally use gestures more flexibly than vocalizations, and that gestural communication is more easily learned and transmitted between individuals. This suggests that gesture-based communication systems could have been quite sophisticated. The social brain hypothesis, developed by Robin Dunbar, proposes that increasing social complexity drove cognitive evolution. As group sizes grew and social relationships became more complex, individuals with better social intelligence had survival advantages. Brain endocast studies of early fossils suggest that regions associated with social cognition were already enlarging in our earliest ancestors, supporting the idea that social intelligence was a crucial early development. The cooperative foraging theory suggests that our ancestors developed unprecedented levels of cooperation in finding and processing food resources. Unlike modern apes, which show limited food sharing, early humans may have developed more communal approaches to resource acquisition. Recent analysis of wear patterns on fossil teeth suggests that our ancestors were processing a much wider variety of foods than modern apes, possibly indicating cooperative foraging strategies that allowed exploitation of difficulty-obtained resources. The environmental adaptation hypothesis proposes that the changing climate and fragmenting forests required remarkable behavioral flexibility. Groups that could quickly adapt to new environments and resources had significant survival advantages. Isotope analysis of fossil teeth shows that early human ancestors had more varied diets than contemporary apes, suggesting they were successfully exploiting diverse and changing environments without technological assistance. The protocultural learning theory suggests that our ancestors were already developing primitive cultural transmission systems, allowing knowledge to be passed between generations and across groups more effectively than in other apes. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies show that survival in challenging environments requires extensive environmental knowledge that takes years to acquire. Our ancestors would have needed similar knowledge transmission systems to survive. The enhanced memory hypothesis proposes that our ancestors developed superior spatial and temporal memory systems that allowed them to track resources, remember seasonal patterns, and navigate complex environments more effectively than other primates. Cognitive studies of modern foraging peoples show remarkable memory abilities, including detailed mental maps of vast territories and precise timing of seasonal resource availability. These abilities may have deep evolutionary roots. The vocal learning precursor theory suggests that while true language hadn't yet emerged, our ancestors may have been developing enhanced vocal learning abilities that would later give rise to speech. Recent research on great ape vocalizations has shown more flexibility in learning than previously thought, suggesting that the foundations for vocal communication were present in our common ancestors. To summarize, life 6 million years ago represents one of the most remarkable survival stories in evolutionary history. Our earliest ancestors managed to carve out an ecological niche and establish a successful lineage using only their natural intelligence, social bonds, and behavioral flexibility. These creatures lived at the very threshold of humanity. They possessed the cognitive potential for language, tool use, and complex culture. But these capabilities were still locked away, expressed only through enhanced social cooperation, environmental awareness, and problem-solving abilities. Their survival strategies were based on pure intelligence and social coordination. They had to read environmental cues with perfect accuracy, coordinate group activities through gesture and expression, and make life or death decisions using only their wits and accumulated experience. What's most remarkable is that these apparently simple creatures were developing the foundations for everything that would make humans unique. Their enhanced social intelligence would eventually give rise to complex language. Their environmental problem-solving would evolve into technological innovation. Their group coordination would become the basis for human culture and civilization. Understanding this period helps us appreciate that human exceptionalism didn't appear suddenly with the first stone tools or the development of language. Instead, our most distinctive traits have deep evolutionary roots, emerging gradually from the remarkable survival achievements of our pre-tool, pre-languaged ancestors. These early humans were survivors in the purest sense. They faced challenges that would overwhelm most modern humans, yet they not only survived, but thrived, ultimately giving rise to a lineage that would transform the entire planet. The fact that they accomplished this without any of the technologies or communication systems we consider essential for human life makes their achievement even more extraordinary. They prove that the essence of humanity lies not in our tools or our words, but in our intelligence, our social bonds, and our remarkable ability to adapt and overcome. What do you think was the most crucial ability that allowed our earliest ancestors to survive without tools or language? Was it their social intelligence, their environmental awareness, or their behavioral flexibility? Let me know in your thoughts in the comments below. The story of human evolution continues to reveal new surprises about the remarkable capabilities of our ancient ancestors. If you found this journey to the very roots of humanity as fascinating as I do, give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who appreciates the incredible story of human origins. Until next time, remember that the next time you solve a problem, communicate an idea, or work together with others, you're using abilities that have been refined over millions of years, starting with our remarkable pre-tool, pre-language ancestors.